So Wagwan peeps, yeah?
Okay.
T.A.P Project 2.0, what's good? How's it feel to be part of T.A.P Project, eh?
I'm excited, right? And I have to say, when I first moved here from Bermuda, and I asked someone like, "Where do I find this?" or "Who do I go to for this?" people kept saying to me, "You have to meet Otis Thomas," right? So I met Otis Thomas last year, and I was like, "Okay." And Otis, true to his word, he guides everything. So let me start by saying he is the plug. Okay,
I'll take that.
he is. That's what I call him to this day, the plug. But did I ever imagine I'd be a part of 2.0? Did I ever imagine I'd be a part
It's
of
crazy how
T.A.P?
things just happened organically, but that's the way how it's meant to
And
be,
it's
innit?
weird because I always kept saying to me, I want you to meet this lady called Carla. Remember? You
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
I want you to meet her. I think when you sent me a link to your social media and I went on your thing and I thought, oh yeah, I like this lady. And as soon as we walked in, we both smiled and laughed, didn't we? So
Yeah.
and from that day, we just...
It's good that you just naturally clicked as well, as that's important as I want us to, not even want us to, we have become a family anyway, organically, and it's not been forced, so yeah,
And
man, see us as my sisters now.
Most definitely, we've all got big energies, but the thing
Definitely.
is we create that space for it to be okay.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though
yeah.
It's all right because we like big energy.
Definitely, and we've not had a fallout yet, but...
But Carla, what do you think that you're gonna bring to T.A.P 2.0? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I've been thinking. To be honest with you, it's come to me. I was thinking, really, I was quite excited and thought quite honoured for all this come to me and asked me. And then I thought about it for a bit, and I thought I can see because I do quite a lot of things within the community. People don't know, but I wear many hats. And I just thought, especially when it comes to the community and passion, I want to bring it under one umbrella because it is for the Black community. It is about being unapologetic. It is about breaking down barriers. So I thought, coming under T.A.P, it gives me even more support for the work that I am doing. So I just thought this was definitely the right.
Do you want to touch on some of the work that you're doing? Because obviously the listeners at home aren't going to know everything that you're involved in.
Yeah, so basically I've done work around the education to prison pipeline, and that was because of my own personal experience having a child that went through difficulties within the education system for quite a bit of time. So from that I decided that I was going to kind of reach out in the community to try and get support, and I couldn't find any support of any projects within the community that could support me and my son with the difficulties he was going through. So I thought, okay, I started doing some research. I got in contact with people in London and they were supporting me. So then I decided, let me kind of bring it out onto the table and see if anybody else is. And that's where I put on the event, the Black Child Agenda.
Yeah, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so we had about 70 people attend, families. We brought Cheryl Phoenix from London. She came down. She was amazing. And we've done a few workshops and stuff. And what we got from that is that Afro-Caribbean parents needed a safe space to talk about the issues that they face with their families. And we knew that we didn't want to sit around the table with other parenting programs because we felt the issues that we faced were too dynamic, and we could see that social services or certain services might get involved.
But isn't it interesting that in the modern day that we still have gaps in services for our people?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's because, what I realised, we need to create our own space. You can't heal
unapologetically as well.
Yeah, heal with the people that hurt you, or heal with the people that look like the people that hurt you. You just don't feel safe. You're always going to have barriers up. So it's very important that we create that space and the safe space unapologetically for us to heal. Because I do believe when we sit around the professional tables, they know what we are going through. Even though sometimes they don't want to see us have that space or they block it, they already know by reports, research that they do, that, Afro-Caribbean people don't access services. We're high in mental health. Our young children are in the criminal justice system. Our young people have mental health, educational healthcare plans. But again, when we try to create these spaces for us to heal and help and support, they're kind of not there for us to have. So I'm glad that we can come under T.A.P where it's an organisation that's unapologetic and we look for a way to say, we're doing this and this is what it is and it's for our people.
Just to add to that as well, in regards to being unapologetic and addressing the needs of our young people, that's what led me to pursuing the path of looking at opening our own independent school, which is specifically for Black children, primary school age. And that came about Really, just because I wanted to create a space for my son. So we currently homeschool my son. He goes part-time to a Montessori house a couple of days a week. But I don't feel it's culturally competent to meet the needs that I want addressed for him. So that led me on the path to looking at what funding options we could get. And now we've received some funding to do a feasibility study. And we're aiming to open the school by January next year, 2024. So
I think it's important for people to see, well, our young people and also our elders, to see people who look like them. I'm very passionate about telling stories that are accurate because oftentimes, inadvertently or not, stories are told in the media based on a narrative. And I always use this example, Raheem Sterling. When he bought the house for his mom, he was labeled wasting money. But yet, when the other young man who was white bought a house for his mom, it was a great investment. And oftentimes, there are these subliminal messages that people may not even realize exist that send messaging to our people of who we are supposed to be and not who we are. So, as a journalist, I've always felt a responsibility to, yes, telling the truth, but ensuring that I'm being accurate and looking at it holistically, because an experience from someone who may be well off is definitely going to be different from someone who is suffering in the community. And we can't write or tell a story from one lens. So as the media lead for T.A.P, I'm actually excited about looking at different opportunities in which we can cultivate, I'm not going to say proper journalism, but journalism that has compassion and teaching people how to tell stories. Because even when I did my master's not too long ago, everyone did not look like me. And every example did not reflect me and my children. And so I think it's important for people to understand that there is another lens, and organizations like The Voice are organizations that I love because they're ones who tell the stories of us for us.
yeah, do you want to touch on some more of your other experiences in regards to like the retreats that you've been doing and stuff?
So I am the founder of the Women's Empowerment Summit in Bermuda, and it's an organization, it's a movement, I call it, that I created in 2016 that was initially just a one-off. I just wanted a space where different women can tell their stories, and I used it as my coming out because I had dealt with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, very bitter as a single mom, and I was like, you know what? Let me create a positive space where we can share stories where we don't feel alone. And it was initially a one-off. I moved here to Manchester a few weeks later and thought, left that behind. And someone called and said, when's the next one? And I was like, there is no next one. And this year, I'll be hosting my 8th one.
Amazing.
So over the last 7 years, we've had over 1,000 women in attendance. And the one thing, I don't believe in rules, but the one rule I have is there is no judgment. And I feel that that's something that I can also, with T.A.P, the contribution to that is to make people feel that it's okay to be who you are, right? I'm huge on that. I don't care where you're from, what's your background, you deserve to be treated with respect. So I'm proud to say that earlier this year, I co-founded Empowerment UK. Empowerment UK is a bit different because it's unapologetically for Black women and Black men and Black youth. And at first I was nervous, but Otis has rubbed off on me because Otis is like, I asked Otis, I was like, well, how is it going to come across where, I'm being very specific in my target audience? And Otis was like, be unapologetic. And so that's exciting, and I'm looking at having a host of events, in the months and years to come. I think I'm so excited because it's my time to contribute to Manchester in the way that I think I can, and I know I will.
Definitely. No, it's good because it's good that everyone's got their own individual projects going on, but then we can come together and operate under the T.A.P umbrella to boost our individual projects, but also boost T.A.P. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can create as a collective and how we can impact our community positively. Do you want to touch on Black Love Revolution and what that's about and what you've done so far, which is something that you're bringing under the T.A.P umbrella?
So, Black Love Revolution, where did that birth from? So me personally, I've been in a relationship for 19 years, and when I entered a relationship 5 years ago, I looked in the community and I'm like, okay, what's Black love around here? And realised that sorry to say, but so much looked quite toxic. And I felt that, not me being judgment, but I felt that in the black community, when it comes to relationships, that we just wasn't having conversations that we needed to have about barriers within relationships. And not just that, it wasn't just about us as adults, but how it affects the black family home. Because from having a charity and looking at supporting the children, we realise if we're not supporting the families, the parents, the adults, how are we helping the children?
How was the reception to that? Because usually, and I'm sorry, but you have to say usually men don't want to talk about relationships. Don't tell me how to love. How was the reception to?
So with our events, so basically our events are safe spaces, so they're not filmed, not cameraed or anything. So when you come in there, it's kind of, we have a topic and we open up and we explore. And what we found, it was a beautiful space. People opened up, men opened up, women opened up. Very sacred, because people cried, there was emotions, people opened up for the third place, people talking about domestics, people talking about where they took it from their family, parents, where they didn't know. People just sharing, it was just an open space. And even for me, that's someone that wanted to put it on, I found that most of the sessions for the year, I sat quiet because, like I said, I was being educated. I didn't just put it on because I wanted it to be an event that I'm doing it. I wanted to heal, I wanted to learn, I wanted to talk about the barriers that I had. Being out of a relationship, you realise there's things that you bring to the table that you did, if you're going to move on or you're going to make changes, you need to actually address that behaviour. And I thought by addressing it in a sacred space, people could each one teach, one share.
With you putting on the event, but what did you get out of it for yourself?
And I think me, it wasn't about what I got for myself. I think it was more about creating that space and starting it off. Needing someone confident enough, bold enough, and unapologetic enough to say, yeah, we're the Black Love Revolution, and this is what the mission is behind it. And I think for the first year, it's kind of, for me, was it even me getting into it? It's me, people asking me questions, what is it, and not even knowing, wanting it to organically develop itself from being a sacred space, because I knew that I needed to be in that space too. So we let it organically grow, and that's where it's got to it, where now we can actually confidently say that it is a space for us to discuss relationships, but not just that, for man and woman. It doesn't matter if you are in a relationship, for us to go places, like we can go out for meals, we can go on holidays, we can go do activities in the community, just bringing black women and black men together, because it's not necessary you have to be in a relationship to help someone to heal. And our space is not about you coming to find a man or a woman, it's about you being able to be a friend with a man or a woman. And be able to, you know what I mean?
Just to add to that as well, so before you joined, we had an initiative on the T.A.P called Black to the Movies, which will now fall under the BLR umbrella as well, so it's just another activity to go with that.
And what I want for BLR as well, which I think, it fits in, even speaking with Carla, because we already want you on board as well, with some of the things you're doing and how we bring black organisations in together to make that more bigger and powerful. So we have that space. But I think very important, we want to just not just have that place where we're sitting down and talk about black love. We want to go places, we want to do things. We're at a certain age where you want to visit places, like we want to go to the Ascots, we want to go, Amsterdam, we want to go for meals, we want to go roller skating, we want to go cinema. You can just be friends, not feel like you have to be in a relationship, more have a friendship and understand each other as man and woman. So very important. We've got so much more work to do.
100%, definitely. So where do you see yourself, say, in the next 5 years in regards to operating under the T.A.P umbrella? I'll throw it on your toes first. You don't like to stick it on people's toes.
I've done a lot in my career, and I'm at a stage in my life where I feel that it's time for me to give back on a greater level. And for me, my commitment is that I want to be a part of the growth and grow with T.A.P for not just the next 5, but the next 10. I want us to create programs that will be impactful on a whole nother level, to where even if someone is in Birmingham or in London and someone says, well, what's an organization that can have an impact, and they say the T.A.P project.
Where do you see yourself in regards to T.A.P project in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I definitely see us creating some community asset. Definitely putting ourselves around the table with those top big people and really advocating for our community and being able to tap into some of the big tenders where we can actually nurture and cater to our community that is true and authentic and definitely tailored towards them, and they're actually working with people that look like them. I think very important that we actually put ourselves around the tables, whether it's in education, mental health, training. We get ourselves around the table, get people knowing who we are and what we're about, unapologetically.
Definitely.
And definitely having asset so we can create employment, we can train our young people, because for me, yeah, I'm 43, but I see that we're creating space for the next generation, our kids, our grandkids. So definitely bringing them in so they can actually we can actually pass on the baton to them.
My son's 17. I would have loved for him, and it's not too late, but I would have loved for him to do that and see it led by Black men, Black women, but also Black peers. I have a 13-year-old who doesn't have not one Black friend to this day. So that's what I mean. We never came from needing help in services as such, but more social services so that they can fit in, because oftentimes we're the minority.
Yeah.
And it just feels good to be in a space of knowing that you could turn to an organization that can help you to find people or offer services that cater to people who look like you.
Most definitely, I think it's very important now. And not just from your perspective, we've got many people that come from other countries that when they do come here, they feel quite alienated because they don't know the system, they don't know their rights, they don't know things like, for example, what they can do with the children. If you might tell your child off a certain way in these countries, you come here and it's no social services involved.
I learned that smacking was a very bad thing, right?
Exactly.
I was working and I was telling a lady how my kids got smacked with a flip-flop. And she was like, what? You don't do that. And culturally, I'm an island girl, I'm from Bermuda. That's what you do, right? If you spank, you use a shoe perhaps and you spank. But here it could have such a severe consequence. So you're absolutely correct about learning the systems. Even now that my son's in college, he's my first that's going through primary, secondary, and now college. There are things I'm still learning. So I think that we can do so much with T.A.P in such a tangible and meaningful way that will resonate for years to come.
Yeah, and it's like you said, we're looking at filling the void rather than replicating work that's already taking place by the correct organisations. And I think signposting is a key element to which we need to facilitate. So one of the projects that myself and Carlette spoke about, which was the School to Industry Pipeline program, which was designed by Dean Okai Senior, which we're now in discussions of how we can implement this within Manchester. It's basically like a one-stop service for families, whether it be the parents or the young people, and they'll come to us, tell us what their issues are, and then we'll either provide the assistance in-house or signpost them to the correct organisation. And I feel that's something key that we need to be mindful of in our community, that if there's organisations that are already delivering services, looking at how you can work with them rather than creating the same service and it's not being able to be delivered to the optimum point that it could be. So I feel this is something that we need to address amongst ourselves.
I think it definitely fits in with great charity, Grassroots Education Academy for Transformation, which is a charity that was set up to support Afro-Caribbean diasporic families and especially children with educational healthcare plans, children that have special needs, learning disabilities, autism, ADHD, different special needs that they need support with. And I think that where we do that education,
the School to Industry Pipeline.
School to Industry Pipeline would definitely fit in with that because again, it's holistically can look at supporting the whole family, not just the child and the parent the other siblings that could be affected as well. And that's where, again, Black Love Revolution is that part for the parent, grassroots education academies for the young children. Great was the parenting program. So again, we need those spaces, but to visualize, people within the families and the community that need that support.
So Otis, how do you feel? TAP was your baby, and your baby's growing.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you look back from where you started to where you are now and where you're heading?
Yeah, I want to commend like the original members who helped build the foundations that TAP's currently presiding on. We put a lot of time and effort into getting things to where they are now, and I feel we've reached a certain point within the confines of what we was restricted to, just based on capacity and limitations of other members. And because it was everyone's baby, people's a bit sensitive to let other people like take charge on other initiatives. Whereas now, like, my main focus is impact, and I feel now like the shackles are off now that you're involved, where it's like kind of like a fresh start, and we have a collective vision in regards to where we want to take things, and just picking up off your energy for like when you first arrived, and just like your excitement and your expectations and hopes and aspirations of where you see TAP going. It just rejuvenated myself to where, like, right, I'm ready, let's go. Time to crack on now, and let's just dominate and take over.